That's not a knife. This is a femur. The recording began with static, and then the feed cut to a shaky over-the-shoulder view of a canyon on Threx 9. The planetary surveyor's drone, designated Observer 112, hovered behind a group of Karathi scouts. They had taken formation, eyes locked on a lone creature below. Not a creature, a human, a Terran male, shirtless, covered in dust, blood that might have been his or something else's smeared across his chest like war paint. In one hand, he held a makeshift spear, in the other, a thigh bone, still dripping. "Confirmed species," barked Commander Relock, his spines twitching nervously as he viewed the feed. "Terran, Homo sapiens, single combatant. Why isn't it running?" It wasn't. It stood there in the canyon floor like it wanted to be seen, as if the human had walked into the hunting ground looking for the apex predator. The Karathi scouts murmured in low tones as the drone feed zoomed in. Then the beast came. A Vrexel hound, native apex life form of Threx 9, bred to hunt entire packs of Karathi in their war training rituals. Quad-legged, fanged, armored hide, a bioluminescent frill running down its back, and plasma sacs in its throat that could melt flesh within seconds. It burst from the rock cleft with a shriek that shattered nearby stones. The human didn't flinch. Instead, he dropped the spear. "He dropped his weapon," one scout whispered. "No," another said quietly. "He kept the bone." The human shouted something. No translation was available. Possibly a war cry, possibly just yelling. The Vrexel lunged, and that's when the horror began. The alien beast collided with the human in a violent blur, claws tearing, jaws snapping. Dust exploded into the air. The drone feed wavered as it tried to refocus. For 10 seconds, all anyone could see was chaos. Limbs, dirt, screams. Then the dust settled. The Vrexel hound was on its back, legs twitching. The human was on top, still holding the femur, now jammed deep into the beast's throat. He drove it in with both hands, growling, pushing, until the cracking of cartilage was audible through the feed. He stabbed it with a bone?" said one of the command staff on the observation vessel. "It was his own thigh bone," murmured the comms officer, "from a fallen squad mate, based on local scans. He broke it off the body and sharpened it." "Why?" the feed answered. The human yanked the bone out and stood, soaked, muscles twitching with adrenaline. He looked around, straight at the drone. Then he raised the bone like a sword, bellowed again, and pointed into the sky. He had seen them. Commander Relock paused the recording. His facial spines curled inward. The room had gone silent. "So," he said slowly, "we deployed the hound to remind them of their place." "Yes, Commander. And instead, we watched one of them kill it with an improvised femur." "Affirmative. And then challenge us." Again, silence. "Where did this footage originate?" "Unit Theta 6. Ground scouts sent to evaluate Threx 9's viability for colony development. They thought the area had been cleared of all Terran hostiles." "Was it?" "Apparently not." Relock stared at the paused image. The human's mouth was open, mid-roar. His eyes had a look, one the Karathi were not familiar with. Not rage, not madness. Something else. It made his scales itch. "Send a strike team. Eliminate him." Hours later, the assault ship Merciless Dawn breached atmosphere. They came in squads, 20 armored Karathi shock troopers, plasma rifles charged, drones overhead. The Vrexel was a joke compared to them. The battlefield was theirs. It was not even a battle, they thought. And then came the smoke. The canyons of Threx 9 filled with a gray mist. Not natural, not toxic, just blinding. Every helmet visor scrambled. Targeting systems glitched. The comms turned to static. "Who is jamming us?" No one answered. The first Karathi scream cut through the silence. Then another, and another. When they found the first body, it had no weapon damage, no plasma burns, just a crushed windpipe. The second body had its helmet embedded into his chest cavity. The third one was missing a leg. All signs pointed to blunt force trauma, organic weapons, hands. "He's hunting us," a private whispered before vanishing into the fog. By the time the smoke cleared, 17 Karathi were down. The rest limped back to the ship, leaving their dead behind. One trooper made it back with his helmet cam intact. The last image on the feed showed the human dragging another Vrexil corpse across the rocks. He had two now. He was building something. "Sir," said the ship's data analyst as he pieced together the fragments, "we believe he's arranging the bodies into a symbol." "A symbol?" The analyst nodded slowly. "It resembles the Terran numeral 1. Commander Relock's mandibles twitched. "One?" "Yes." "As in, there's only one of him?" "Yes, sir." Silence again. "Leave orbit. Now." "But we've seen enough." By the time Merciless Dawn left the planet's gravity well, the image had been broadcast to the rest of the Karathi fleet. Across command ships and high citadels, officers stared at the lone figure in the canyon, building his monument to savagery. And then he looked up again, straight at them. The footage froze once more, this time in briefing halls on the Council world. Advisors gathered, fleet tacticians whispered. No one made eye contact, because they had come to Threx 9 expecting a challenge. What they found was a human, a lone one, who didn't run, didn't hide, didn't fire a single shot. He waited, and when their best weapon came for him, he tore it apart with hands and bone. The youngest of the council, a pale-scaled youth named Telnor, finally said what no one else wanted to say. "If one of them can do that alone," he whispered, "what happens when we meet a squad?" No one answered, because everyone was thinking the same thing. What kind of species rips apex predators apart just to make a point? They came back with flamethrowers. 2 days after the footage was circulated, the Karathi High Command overruled the withdrawal order. Relock was stripped of command, accused of cowardice, and replaced by Admiral Volntar, a hardened war tactician with a reputation for problem eradication. "This is not a story," Volntar had said as he addressed the fleet. "This is an infestation. One Terran has embarrassed our empire, so we will remove him, scorched, shattered, vaporized. No body, no legend, no symbol." They landed 5 full transports at once, 100 troops in reinforced power armor, 2 mortar teams, air support, and 3 anti-personnel mechs. The Vrexil corpses were still there when they arrived, dried and rotting, arranged now into what appeared to be a throne of sorts. And on that throne sat no one. The human was gone. The officers began to laugh. Volntar did not. "Scatter, search, clean this canyon until we find him." The orders spread, drones fanned out. The canyon echoed with the hum of servos and the crunch of boots. Sensors pinged, motion scanners deployed. Nothing. Nothing. Then, one ping. Trooper Garnick saw it first. A blip behind him. He turned. Nothing there. But his heart rate monitor spiked. All officers watching his feed saw it. His breathing picked up. He swung his weapon, checked behind every rock. Then he looked up. A blur dropped from the canyon wall, landed without a sound. The feed went black. "Lost contact with Garnick 17. Send recovery." Squads 5 and 9 rerouted. They found the helmet. Just the helmet. Still recording. Still broadcasting audio. The breathing in the background wasn't Garnick's. It was slower, deeper, deliberate, as if someone had picked up the helmet and was letting them know. That's when the mortar team vanished. No explosions, no alarms. One moment they were transmitting coordinates to base, the next just static. Recon drone footage from above showed it clearly. Smoke grenades 3 at once, dropped from above. Tactical timing, perfectly synchronized. Out of the smoke came one figure. No armor, no ranged weapons, but in his hands he carried something massive. A mortar tube, still hot. They watched as he hoisted it like a club. One trooper tried to fire. Too late. The entire camera went red with blood. It wasn't just the savagery anymore. It was the precision. Volntar clenched his fists as the feed switched to thermal. The human had disappeared again. No heat signature. He's masking himself. Body temperature, adjusted. Possible subdermal dampening, mud layers, blood layers, terrain blending. You're telling me he smeared himself in our troops and hid in the rocks? Silence. The Admiral growled. Fine. Deploy airstrike, now. Gunships roared overhead. The canyon lit up with fire and light. Missiles streaked. Rocks turned to glass. Everything in a mile radius became ash and crater. Even the throne of Rexil Bones was gone. "Target neutralized," one pilot declared. The troops began cheering. Volontar didn't. "Thermal scan." Still no signature. "Widen radius." 300 yards to the west. Movement, not human. Too large. It was the Vrexil again, except this one was different. It was limping, bleeding. Something was on it. The drone zoomed in. It was the human, riding the Vrexil like a mount. No saddle, just fists in its frill and a jagged blade, likely Karathi issue, jammed into its side, controlling direction through pain and instinct. He had tamed the apex. Volontar whispered, "He's using the hound as a battering ram." And he was right. The beast slammed into the forward camp. Armor crumpled, gun emplacements shattered. The human leapt off mid-charge and rolled through plasma fire, hurling one of the troopers into a mech's open cockpit before the pilot could react. That mech exploded 2 seconds later. Footage from inside the command ship showed Volontar roaring, "How is he still alive?" A tech answered, "We think he's been scavenging our dead. Armor bits, med kits, nutrient packs. He's recycling us." In the confusion, something worse emerged. Audio from one of the downed Vrexil helmets played back during a security diagnostic. A voice. His voice. The human. Speaking clearly, calmly. "Send more," he had said. That's all. Just those 2 words. Send more. As if he wanted them to. That's when the Karathi realized something else. He wasn't running. He wasn't surviving. He was training. Each wave they sent wasn't a threat to him. It was an opportunity. New gear, new tactics, new muscle memory. The canyon had become his gym, the invasion force his sparring partner. He was getting better. Volontar slammed his fist on the console. "We glassed the planet. I want orbital fire. Saturation strike. Get me the planetary purifiers." The order sent chills through the fleet. That was the last resort. Total annihilation. The ships moved into alignment. Then the alarms blared. One of the ships, the crushing verdict, was veering off course. Internal sabotage. Feed showed a single armored Karathi staggering through the hangar, blood leaking from his ears, chest torn open. Over his shoulder, an emergency launch harness. Someone had taken his suit. Airlock cameras caught it. A figure half covered in armor, half naked, leaping through the closing bay doors of a drop shuttle, launching himself into orbit. Straight toward the fleet. It was him. Volontar stared in disbelief. "How?" A voice crackled over the emergency channel. Unregistered, unauthorized, but somehow piggybacking on their comms. The voice of the human. "You sent your best." Static. "Now I'm sending me." Before they could react, the first cruiser's engine core detonated. Security footage showed the human, face bloodied, welding torch in hand, locked inside the engineering deck with 3 Karathi corpses and a pile of explosive charges made from repurposed plasma cells. One man, no ship, no squad, no hope, and yet here he was, bringing a battleship down from the inside. The explosion crippled 2 other ships. Volontar gave the order to retreat. They never found his body, or so they claimed, because months later, transmissions from the edge of Karathi space began to pick up strange anomalies, beacons blinking in Old Terran Morse. Only one message repeated, "Send more." Karathi High Command convened in secret. Their fleet had suffered 12 confirmed ship losses, 17 damaged beyond repair, and hundreds of trained warriors gone without even triggering their distress implants. Not a war, not a rebellion, just one human. "He has no allies, no supplies, no ship," whispered General Tazkar. "And yet we've lost more to him than to the last 2 planetary uprisings combined." The room was heavy with silence. The truth no one wanted to say was thick in the air. The human wasn't just surviving, he was winning. Counselor Bralek finally spoke. "He is not simply a soldier. He is the storm that follows arrogance." The others didn't laugh. No one had in days. The council declared an immediate halt to all incursions into Terran claimed space. They pulled back, burned maps, and sealed archives. Officially, the Terran incident of Threx 9 never occurred, but the damage was done. Every species that traded in the outer systems had heard the stories. Merchants passed whispered tales. Miners brought back relics. Scorched, bone-shaped weapons, heat-scarred Karathi helms with claw marks on the inside. Not the out. And on a remote moon outside Vexor Prime, a shattered hull of an old surveillance probe was found embedded in an asteroid. Its only recovered log, "Send more." 6 years later, deep beneath the volcanic crust of Uric 8, the Karathi War College offered a mandatory simulation course, codenamed GHOST-1. Cadets were dropped into a digitally reconstructed canyon. No allies, no HUD, no rescue. Only one objective: survive the encounter. Most didn't. Those who did emerged with thousand-yard stares. The simulation's final phase always ended the same way. The lone human model would appear in total silence, weaponless, in charge. There were no options, no win condition. The point was not to defeat him, it was to run. A lesson in fear, a reminder. Meanwhile, far from the core, on a jungle world forgotten by cartographers, a trading outpost blinked to life. Its systems had been offline for decades. Now a small signal began pulsing into the void. Old Terran bandwidth, encrypted, chaotic, ancient. A distress call, number A beacon. The crew of a Zarn research vessel picked it up. Younglings, bold, curious, foolish. They followed the ping down into the ruins of a Terran forward camp, overgrown with moss and strangler vines. And there, buried under roots and ash, they found the remains of a Vrexel throne, empty. Carved into the back wall was a sentence in blood-red paint, barely faded. "He sleeps when you stop sending." The Zarn crew laughed it off. A myth, they said, until night fell. One by one, the crew began to disappear. Their instruments failed. Their own combat AI locked them out, citing unidentified override. Someone, something, was inside the ship, using their own systems against them. The last log entry from the ship captain came with a visual, a blurred image of a shadow stepping through fire, a human outline, scarred, bare-chested, carrying a jagged length of alien metal and wearing a helmet that once belonged to the Karathi elite. The feed cut out just as he turned toward the camera. He was smiling. Years passed. Generations rose. Empires changed hands. But across 100 systems, in hush bars, dark corridors, and ship mess halls, one name always lingered. They didn't call him a hero or a villain. They called him the Reminder, because when peace grew too soft or warships grew too bold, someone would mention it. The man who took on an empire, the one who never called for backup, who made an apex predator his pet, who tore apart everything thrown at him until the galaxy stopped sending. And even then, they say, he never stopped waiting, just sharpening bones into blades, just building more thrones from whatever the galaxy dared to send next. They said the worst thing wasn't that he fought with rage, it was that he fought with joy. Like every enemy was a gift, like every battle was fuel. The Karathi Empire never fully recovered. They rebuilt their fleets, reinforced their borders, but they never returned to Threx 9, because deep down in the hearts of their most elite warriors, in the whispers of their sons and their sons' sons, one question echoed forever. What happens if we send more, and someone else answers? No one dared to find out, because they knew the humans still waited, not for help, not for peace, but for the next fool who thought he could tame a species that enjoyed being tested.